So what I would like to do now is go over what we'll be covering in this class. And the first thing, of course, is Reiki. So let's take a look at the word Reiki. Reiki is made up of two Japanese words. Rei meaning something like universal, godlike, spiritual, and Ki meaning something like power, energy, or power. So Reiki is a word for universal life force, God power, spiritual energy. And in the West, it's come to mean two things that are related. One is the energy itself, and the Reiki energy is everywhere. There's Reiki energy everywhere. There's Reiki energy in this room, on the street, over mountains, oceans, cities. It's everywhere. And the energy, the Reiki energy, is able to interact with living organisms. It helps them to recover their balance. It's a harmonizing and balancing energy. Now, the second meaning of the word Reiki is the system for using this energy. And you're here for both, to be connected to the Reiki energy itself and learn how to use it. And I'll tell you much more as we go through the class, but I want to tell you some important points right now that I think will be helpful. Reiki is different from all other forms of energy healing in that in Reiki, we don't use our own energy to provide the healing. Instead, we're connected, we're conduits for this universal life force that is all around us. And there's a process that I'll tell you about in a little bit that makes that connection. Because we're not using our own energy, we never have to worry about becoming depleted. So we can give as many sessions as we wish. And in fact, the more sessions we give, the better we feel, because we get to retain a little bit of it. A little bit of the energy always stays with us. So we feel better after giving a Reiki session than when we started. And because we're not using our energy, we're able to treat ourselves. So even if we were to become very ill, we could still give ourselves effective treatments because it's not our energy. Not only that, because we're not using our energy, we can become effective very quickly. In fact, by the end of this class tomorrow, you all will be channeling Reiki at a therapeutic level. And there's no failure. As long as you're human or animal, even an animal can channel Reiki. And you have a pair of hands, you can do this work. So everybody gets an A in this class. Okay. Another feature of Reiki that is important to be aware of is that you don't have to surround yourself with white light, say a prayer or mantra before starting the Reiki session. There is a protection built into your work as a Reiki practitioner that you receive at the time of initiation that protects you automatically. So anytime that you place your hands and you start the Reiki session, you don't have to worry about passing on energetic issues or picking up energetic problems from your clients. The protection is there. Of course, you can surround yourself with white light, say a prayer, that's totally up to you, but it's not necessary. Okay? And the system, again, is so simple that even children can learn it. I have classes where I teach children, and some of my students are under 5 years old, and they're quite good. So it's a very easy system to learn. Okay, now, more on Reiki later, but let's move on to something else that I want to share with you, and that is chakras. Chakras. Who's familiar with the chakras here? Anyone? Okay, a little bit. Well, chakra, the word chakra is a Sanskrit word for energy wheel, wheel of light. And I learned about chakras from my late husband, John, and he learned about chakras from a medical doctor that he studied with by the name of Brew Joy. Brew Joy. And Brew Joy wrote the book, Joy's Way. And you can still find Joy's Way at bookstores like Amazon, Barnes & Noble online. And I highly recommend reading Joy's Way. I want to tell you a little bit about Brew, though. He was a medical doctor, a cardiologist. And when he was a young man, he healed himself of a serious illness using non-traditional means. Later, he became the head of a Southern California hospital. And one day, he was examining a patient, a young man, and he thought to himself, I wonder if I can feel anything outside this man's body. So he told the patient that I'm going to check the outside of your body now. And of course, the patient nodded, yes, what else could you say, right? And he proceeded with this very strange examination. He started by checking the area above the liver, largest internal organ in the body. Now, what's the largest organ in the body as a whole?
Skin, yeah.
It's the skin, right, good. And as he scanned the area above the liver, he felt something that he later described to John as a warm cloud of energy. He thought this was interesting. Pretty interesting. So he continued on with this examination, and he found another concentration of energy just below the navel, and another one at the bottom of the torso in the perineum. That's the area between the genitals and the anus. Another concentration right here, center of the chest, between the breasts. One right here over just below the Adam's apple. Another one, center of the forehead, and one more on top of the head. So he started examining all his patients in this manner. But if a nurse came in, he would quickly grab his stethoscope and pretend to be doing a standard exam. When the nurse would leave, he would just toss it away and continue on with this routine. And this went on and on until one day, Brew was visiting a bookstore. He walked over to the section on Asiatic religions to get a book. It happened to be on Tantric yoga. He opened the book and started going through it. And he turned to a page that had the figure of a human, and it had colors and letters and symbols, and he just stared at it and yelled, "My gosh, I discovered the chakras." And that's exactly what he did. They're real. Isn't that interesting? They're real. And in this class, you're going to learn to examine the chakras. Now, I'm going to tell you why, but first I have a question for you. Okay, is there anyone here with a medical license? Anyone here? Okay, as Reiki practitioners, we're not licensed and to diagnose nor prescribe. So we want to be very careful never to cross that boundary. But there's a lot of good information that we can collect from the energy field, a person or animal's energy field, that can help us customize the Reiki session just for them. So for instance, chakras have two major functions. One is to supplement the combustion process of sugar and oxygen. In other words, if the person is not receiving enough energy from the food and the oxygen they breathe, the chakras supplement that extra energy that they need. Okay? If a chakra is weak, as you examine the chakras, you'll be able to tell whether they're strong or weak. If the chakra is weak, then you know that that's an area that needs attention, that needs more Reiki, and you want to bring that chakra up energetically so that you can customize a session for the client. In addition, chakras have an emotional component. And by you understanding the emotional component, you can also customize the session for the client. John, my late husband John, was very, very good at examining chakras. In fact, he created a theory of emotionality in the chakras. And he could tell in about 60 seconds what it would take a psychiatrist a full session, a full hour session to determine. And I'm going to teach you John's system tomorrow. Let's talk about the next issue here, the next subject that we're going to cover, and it is set points. It's called set points. Set points are attitudes that we acquire in babyhood and early childhood from interactions that we have with our parents, siblings, teachers, babysitters, and they come into categories: comfortable set points and uncomfortable set points. Comfortable set points are set points such as happiness, love, confidence, courage. Uncomfortable would be the opposite, would be fear, anxiety, sadness. And as we go through life, we may not recall the exact event that created that set point, but it's there. So when something happens that subconsciously reminds us of that event, emotions are triggered, and then that event passes by and we're fine again, and then emotions subside. But life is life, and another event comes along and emotions are triggered again, and then it passes, and it's like a sine wave. And we ride this sine wave as we go through life, and that's fine, okay? The problem is when the event is of such magnitude that instead of a sine wave, it becomes a straight line. And that's when we run the risk of that event, that set point communicating to the body. It's well known that angry people have more heart attacks. People that have set points of sadness are more vulnerable to infections, to diseases. And as we go through the class, I want to go through this with you. I want to address the set points. One more thing about set points that I want to share with you and about Reiki is that Reiki is the gentlest of all energies. That's what John said. When I first learned Reiki, he said to me, Reiki is the gentlest of all energies, but it's also the most effective because it goes right to the set point and it heals from very deep within. And there's no dichotomy in Reiki. Reiki works on everything. It works on the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. It addresses everything. Okay? Now, more on set points as we go through the class. Let's talk about the next item here, and it is the attunement process. Attunement or initiation. And that is the hallmark of Reiki. It's what makes Reiki different from any other form of energy healing. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be giving you 4 initiations or attunements. So it's a process of 4. And you will be sitting in your chair, and you at home will be sitting in your chair. I'll be giving you instructions at home, but for the students in the class, you'll be sitting in your chair. We'll turn the chairs so that the chairs face the windows, and we'll have 2 rows of chairs. And the chairs will be about this far apart, okay? You'll be sitting in your chair without any shoes, nothing on your head. If you're wearing a hairband or pin, please, ladies, remove them. And then you'll have your feet flat on the floor, like so. Your hands together in front of your heart, like this, prayer position, eyes closed, and you'll keep them closed. And then what we'll do is we'll come in front of you, we'll come behind you, and at some point we are going to take your hands, we're going to touch your head, and what we're really doing is we're connecting to the Reiki energy that is in this room and everywhere, in fact, and bringing it in through the crown of your head. and then creating a channel that flows all the way down your head to your shoulders, down your arms to the palms of your hand. And that begins the connection, that begins the flow, okay? Now, it has to be done in 4 parts. So the first time that we administer the attunement will bring you up to about 25%. And then you'll practice all day. Okay, and that will keep the channel open. Tonight, before you go home, we'll bring you up to 50%. So we'll repeat this process again. And then we'll give you some homework to practice. When you come back tomorrow, we'll bring you up to 75%. And then before we finish the class, we'll raise you up to 100%. And at that point, the attunement will be permanent. It'll be with you the rest of your lives. Okay, anytime that you need it. I can't give you the exact formula for the attunement yet. You need to become a master. So that's a good thing to, consider in the future. But I can give you a little more information later if you're interested. And I'll give you a little piece of information right now because I think it's interesting to know this. And this is what Dr. Hayashi said to Mrs. Takata when he was training her as a master. And he said to her, antennas, radios with antennas, back in the 60s and 70s, we could get a transistor radio or a TV set that had antennas, right? Rabbit ear antennas, okay. And if you were, let's talk about a radio. If you were looking for a radio station, you would turn on the radio and then you would turn the dial. And as you look for the station that you're interested in listening to, you would go through other stations, right? Probably, and run into static and noise. And maybe you need to move the rabbit ear antennas a little bit to get a better reception. But when you are right on your station, perfectly on your station, you got a clear signal. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're attuning you to the Reiki energy that is everywhere. So when we have, and we know when we have a clear signal, okay? So that's what we're doing, and we're locking that station so that you can use it. Does that make sense? Good. All right. Okay, so that's the attunement process. Now, in addition to that, you're going to be learning Reiki in 3 patterns. The first pattern is on the front of the torso. And I always do a demonstration first, and then you practice. And we'll do a guided practice. The second pattern is on the head, neck, and shoulders. And the demonstration will come first, and then you'll practice. And then the third pattern is on the back of the body, legs and feet. And at that point, we're going to have you do a full body Reiki treatment. Okay? Now, we're also going to be addressing things like emergency treatments. Reiki can be used for injuries. Surgery. How do you treat before and after a surgery? We'll do lessons on that. We will also practice doing Reiki from a chair. You don't have to spend money on a bodywork table in order to do Reiki. You can do Reiki right from a standard chair or a yoga mat. And we'll do a session for that so that you can practice giving Reiki from a chair. So we'll do chair. We'll also work with crystals. I want to show you how to cleanse and charge crystals. we'll do crystals. Work on pets, very important. Treating pets for ongoing conditions, injuries. If your pet is having surgery, what to do, how to treat before the surgery and after surgery. We'll do all of that for pets. And then we'll talk about the essential information that you need to know about before you give a Reiki session. What sort of questions do you want to ask your client? I think that's going to be very helpful, so we'll do a session on that. Intake. Okay, and we'll also address the history of Reiki. All right, now we have a particular way of teaching the agenda. And if you have a question and your question pertains to what we're covering at that time, we'll answer it immediately. But if it's something that we know that we're going to really get into a lot of detail later, I'll ask you to wait until we get to that part of the class. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Sounds good? Okay, thank you. All right, so why don't we take a little break right now, and when we come back, we are going to see a full demonstration, an overview of a Reiki session. Let's take a break right now.